one of the most important things for entrepreneurs is place. You got to have a place where you want to be that's vibrant. In a 3.5-mile corridor that exists between where Dan Gilbert has worked with Quicken to the Tech Town District to the north, anchored by Henry Ford Health Systems, College for Creative Studies, you have the most dense set of resources that we can see in Michigan and perhaps in the Midwest, serving entrepreneurs. Talent, the last ingredient for successful entrepreneurship, and that's what we're going to be here to talk about today with this talent. So I want to take a few moments, 3 to 5 minutes per panelist, for them to tell you about themselves and their business, and so you can see what talent is happening in our region. Paul, let's start with you.
Again, I'm Paul Glomski. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Detroit Labs. We make mobile apps for leading global brands, and we also spend about 20% of our time investing in our own products, which are mad scientist projects for mobile apps for phones, cars, and all sorts of things. We started in Detroit 2 years ago, and I'm proud to say that we're approaching 40 full-time team members. Detroit has been a perfect place for us for several reasons. First and foremost, as David mentioned, is talent. In a creative software engineering type business, whoever has the best, most innovative talent wins. And Detroit has provided that authentic, genuine experience for recruits who really can work anywhere that they want, and money isn't always the most important thing for them. So an opportunity to be a part of something bigger, make an impact, and ultimately just be in the midst of an exciting time has been a huge advantage for us and the talent that we recruit and then bring to our clients. Second is the community and support in the overall Detroit story. So if we were doing this on the coasts, we would be one of thousands of technology startups. Being in Detroit, there is an extremely supportive entrepreneurial community, and it's friendly. You know, it's genuinely, we want to help each other out. And then there is the PR aspect. So being part of a unique story in Detroit and getting that story that story getting told in the media is one extra push that helps you overcome that gravity that helps you overcome all the odds of starting a new business. And finally, support from others in the community, the business community, those who have been supportive of Detroit for a long time, like General Motors, even ones like Microsoft, and especially a great example is DTE Energy. These are clients who are completely out of our league, and we're working with them, and we're only 2 years old. DTE Energy, we just submitted to Apple a really exciting app that helps DTE Energy in their efforts to improve their customer experience through innovation and technology, and there are several more examples of that. So for those reasons and a host of others, we've had a lot of support, and I'm proud to say that by the end of this year, I expect to be approaching 60 full-time team members. In our first year, we reached millions in revenue. In our first 6 months, we were profitable. And what I'm most proud of is that we did this with really a sliver of funding. Our investors, Dan Gilbert, Detroit Venture Partners, they have deep pockets. I've largely ignored their deep pockets and started this with really a sliver of funding and have taken, I've been grateful for all of the things that the city of Detroit have provided.
Katelyns.
My name is Katelyns James. I am the co-founder and managing partner of DROUGHT, which is Michigan's only raw juice company. So just to give you a little bit of detail on what raw juice is, if you're not familiar, it's nutraceutical beverages. It's basically the most recent manifestation of an old-fashioned practice. We make juice the way that juice should be made. So we use 100% organic fruits and vegetables. We cold press all of our juice, which is a slow craft process, and we bottle it all in glass bottles. So we primarily do juice cleanse programs, detox programs. We have a kitchen, certified vegan kitchen, which means we don't use any animal products, where we produce all of our juice. It's in downtown Plymouth, and we have a storefront there as well. So our story is pretty interesting in terms of how we got started. I co-own the business with my 4 sisters. I think there's some lovely photos of us up there. So we actually just had an idea that we would get together and start a stand at the farmer's market, sort of a collective effort to do something independent. We had all gone off to college and done our own things, moved away, and eventually came back. And so our idea was to get together maybe once or twice a year and run this farmer's market stand. So in terms of funding, we had none. And so we turned to the internet. We used Kickstarter, which is an online crowdfunding platform. So basically what you do is you put together your project. Our project was to sell raw juice at the farmer's market, and you ask the public to donate money for you. So there's no equity exchange, there's small incentives, and most of our donations were under $20. So we raised $13,000 in 1 month, and about halfway through that, we got shut down by the health department that said you can't do that. So
details.
Yeah. So we realized that there was a lot more involved, and if we were interested in moving forward with it, then we had to put a lot of effort into it. So along the same time, we garnered a lot of press from it. It was, we were on TV, and we were getting written up in magazines, and we barely had a business. So we took the next year to work on our business plan, to get more serious. We were told that we had to find our own kitchen. We couldn't share a space. So that's what we did. And we've utilized mostly non-monetary resources. We have no outside investments still. We've basically just lived simply for the past few years and reinvested all of our money back into our business. So, and it's growing very, very rapidly. This time last year, it was myself and my youngest sister, Jennifer, we were doing 100% of the labor. And now we have 7 employees. We're expecting to have about $1.5 million in revenue this year. And we also expect to hire at least 8 to 10 more people by the end of the year. So we have a diverse kind of background. We've all studied different things, moved away and come back, which I think is probably a trend in this area, from what I know from my friends and family. And you just can't beat, in terms of starting a food business here, you can't beat the resources. I mean, Michigan's agricultural economy is second to only California in terms of diversity of commodities produced. You have programs like the MSU product extension that will help you understand food laws and packaging and all of those things. Washtenaw Food Hub, that if you're interested in local food, they'll help you connect with farmers. So, the resources are unlimited here, and I think it's important to understand, with our businesses as an example, that you don't need anything to do something pretty substantial. So,
Great, Jacques.
Good morning. My name is Jacques Panis, and I'm the president of Shinola, Detroit. We, about 2.5 years ago, set out on a mission to reintroduce manufacturing at a scale in the United States that will impact community in which we live and influence culture in that community as well. And fortunately, we landed in Detroit. We found a home for the business in the College for Creative Studies, where we currently occupy 35,000 square feet. Our facility has the capacity to make 500,000 watches annually. This year we'll make 45,000 watches, and that will scale out over the next few years. We have currently hired 55 people for the business, and that works through all levels, from the folks that are assembling watches up to the folks that are driving and steering the business on a day-to-day basis. By the end of this year, we hope to employ, or we're expecting to employ about 112 people for the business, and continue to grow that out over the next several years. Detroit has been an incredible place for our business. You know, it's when you think about making engines, or when we thought about making engines, which at the end of the day, that's what we're doing with our watches. We make itty-bitty little quartz movements, and those movements, they power our watches. And so when we thought about making engines to power our watches, where else would you look in the United States besides Detroit to make an engine? And so in settling in Detroit, we've been very, very fortunate in finding resources and talent to help us on our mission. The people of Detroit were another major catalyst to us determining and finalizing our plans to be in Detroit. You know, the second meeting that we came back to Detroit to explore further what we were going to do in Detroit, we walked into a room that a gentleman by the name of Bill Dillon at the DEGC, he had set up this meeting, and we walked into a room and there were 30 plus people in the room, and every single one of them had a plan for Shinola and had an idea for Shinola. And that was really the final element that made us decide to call Detroit our home. And over the past 2 years, it's been an amazing adventure and journey in the city, interacting with the folks at Lovio George, who do all of our local PR, to the folks at DC3, the College for Creative Studies have been incredible partners. And the collaborative nature of Detroit is something that, I don't know if you can find it anywhere in the world. And I think that Shinola and the College for Creative Studies is the prime example of that. You know, I would challenge everyone in this room to go find a collaboration like we have with the College for Creative Studies. I don't know anywhere else in the world, or we can't find anywhere else in the world where you have a creative institution, educational institution, and then a light manufacturing operation where some goofballs are making watches. So we're happy to call Detroit our home, and thanks to the Chamber and the conference for having us here today.
Well, if you haven't seen it, one of my favorite parts of Shinola is the tagline. I think you're still using the same tagline. You don't know Shinola? At least that was early. I've got a business card case that says you don't know Shinola. So, yeah. Carla.
Hi, I'm Carla Walker-Miller, CEO of Walker-Miller Energy Services. We're an energy solutions company based in Detroit. We were actually incubated by TechTown, shout out to TechTown, and recently moved into another location in Detroit. So how many of you all have noticed that your energy bills may have gone up over the last few years? Electric, water, and gas. Well, my company's in the right place at the right time. We evaluate buildings, both residential, small commercial, and industrial, and provide a roadmap of solutions from no cost, low cost to investment grade that will help you save money in the operation of your business, and energy money saved goes right to your bottom line. After we provide that roadmap of solutions, we also will do project management for any of the solutions that you decide to partake of. Any retrofits, upgrades, HVAC replacement, even solar projects or small wind projects. Whatever the solution is, it really depends on the return on investment and what your passion is. My passion is energy and saving energy. I'm also proud to say that more than 65% of our employees come from Detroit. We make a commitment to recruit heavily from Detroit. And more than that, most of those are from workforce development entities like Sir Metro, Jobs for Progress, and Southwest Solutions. It takes effort to recruit. There are challenges, but they are worth the challenges. I have employees who are really happy to be employed. They're happy to be treated well. They're happy to have an opportunity for a 401k and health care. And I challenge everyone to take that little effort that's required to have a more diverse workforce, because diversity absolutely adds to the richness of any workplace environment.
Great, thanks, Carla. So why Detroit? I mean, you mentioned it a little bit, but is Detroit an easy place to start a business?
I would say, yeah.
Yeah.
I would say absolutely. I mean, I think that I think that the tenacity of the people in Detroit make it easy. I think that, when evaluating whether or not to come to Detroit, you should always, really look past what is so often shown in the press and in the media about Detroit. There's so much beyond the bad. And I think that we oftentimes get hung up on that. And that's something that, I wish and I hope and we strive for this is to not talk about what Detroit was in the past or what Detroit might be perceived as, but talk about what Detroit is and what Detroit is doing and what the people and the businesses in Detroit have to offer. So I think it's a very resourceful place. And
Right. Caitlin, you're looking at a new retail operation as well in the city.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've actually recently partnered with Shinola, and we're going to be opening a permanent storefront within their retail space in Midtown. So we've been working on, moving into the city for a long time, so that's a great opportunity for us. But one thing, like Paul mentioned earlier, I think our businesses are similar in some sense that, and personally, I've lived in New York for a few years, and on the coast, businesses like ours are very prevalent. And so, there are lower barriers to entry here. The market's not saturated. I mean, in the East Village where I used to live, there's juice bars on every corner, and here you can't find them anywhere. So, in that sense that, the idea of Detroit and the brand around it certainly helps our businesses. And then meanwhile, you have, the very hardworking Midwestern people and, helpful family businesses that will, help you out any day of the week. So it's been a really great place for us. I mean, we initially, for maybe a week, wanted to start our business in New York and then realized that this was a much better choice. So 3 of my sisters and I actually moved home specifically to start our business.
Great. Mm-hmm. Paul, you're the largest tenant in the Madison building, I think.
Mm-hmm. We're the largest tenant in the Madison building, which, if you're not familiar with it, it's Detroit Venture Partners, and I think they're up to 17 or so portfolio companies that are startups that are also in the building. So we were the first tenant, the first investment from Detroit Venture Partners as well. And we love being in the building. There's all this energy and so much energy that has supported our growth that we're outgrowing it. So we're moving into a new space soon that's substantially larger than the footprint that we're in now, that I think is designed for about 18 people, and we're cramming mid-30s, pushing 40 in there. But that has just been one more thing that has helped support our business. And to go back to your first question, I agree that for Detroit, it's really just a perception problem. I obviously see all the assets that can help an entrepreneur. And locally, Detroit actually has kind of a cool get stuff done or get Shinola done kind of good brand. But I speak at a lot of technology events in other states, and first I introduce our company and I say we're Detroit Labs, and when I'm talking to people, they say, so where are you located? Well,
IT people are not very bright on geography.
These are mostly marketing people, actually. But I tell them it's not ironic. We're actually really in Detroit. And then the next question always is, well, where do you get your software engineers? Well, there are thousands of them in the Metro Detroit area, and that always shocks people too. So nationally, there's just a real perception issue that we need to overcome it and just keep beating the drum and telling the story.
Great. Carla?
I just wanted to go back to the question of whether Detroit is easy. I think that whether Detroit is easy or not has a lot to do with who you are, with how resourceful you are, and what you have access to. I mentor 3 startup companies right now, and none of the 3, they're all Detroit-based, and none of the 3 knew about Techtown or knew about all the things that are going on in Detroit. So really getting the story out to the least of these and the people who really use those resources. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of companies out there that have very different experiences from these wonderful, resourceful, successful companies here. And it's up to us to really get that information out and bring those companies into the fold. That will make a huge difference.
That's a great point. As rich as our entrepreneurial ecosystem is, it's almost invisible in the media, and it's not talked about in the corporate setting much at all. Have you seen, Jacques, I mean, as you've looked around the globe at issues, I mean, you certainly looked at other parts of the world before you set up Shinola. Were you aware that these resources were in Detroit before you came and looked and discovered them?
No. Frankly, no. You know, I think, you know, that goes back to what I was saying. So often we talk about Detroit, or the press does, and it's the bad, it's not the good. And, you know, we struggle with that. And I don't understand it. And, you know, it's sad. It's sad for the city. It's sad for the ecosystem. And it's sad for the story. And we really strive to tell the good and to show the good. You know, I think that what we're doing is we're storytellers at Shinola, and the story we're telling is about what we're doing. What we're doing hasn't been done in 50 years in the United States. And the only place that you can see watch manufacturing happening at scale is on the 5th floor for the College for Creative Studies. And I encourage everyone here to come see us. We love people to come see us and visit the facility, and we'll show you around the college as well. It's an incredible institution. And you know, that's what we show. And you know, we tell the story of our people, we tell the story of the places we work, and obviously we tell the story of our product. But number 1 and 2 are the key pillars to what we're doing. And we do not tell the bad story of Detroit. We tell the good story of Detroit. You know, we've hired people, one of the guys who's become, excuse me, our line supervisor was a security guard working at the school when we came into the school. And he heard about what we were doing and came up and took this aptitude test, and he passed it with flying colors. And now today, he's our line leader, Willie. And you can see Willie in our ads. In fact, we had him in our initial campaign, which we sold 2,500 limited edition watches. We sold out in just under 8 days. And 33% of those watches, about a third of the watches, were sold to people in Michigan, which we thought was quite interesting.
So, and if you don't know the Shinola watches, these are not swatches. These are not cheap, inexpensive pieces of plastic by any means. These are high-quality machines.
Indeed.
That are not inexpensive.
They're not inexpensive. Yeah. So, you know, I think, yeah, stop showing ruin porn. If there's anyone from the media here, stop that. You know, please. So, yeah.
So, Caitlin, what else do we need to do? We need, if we're going to promote this entrepreneurial ecosystem, entrepreneurship in Michigan. And I should point out, while we're talking about Detroit, we've got a Detroit panel for the most part here, for the total part. Grand Rapids is experiencing a very similar thing. Start Garden is working there. We're seeing resources work there. We're seeing this in Traverse City. We're seeing it in Kalamazoo. It's happening across the state. I don't think any place more richly than Detroit. Mm-hmm. But what else do we need to do? How do we get the word out? How do we get more entrepreneurs in the system?
I think just, I think locally continuing the dialogue, one of the biggest assets to us is encouraging other businesses to help smaller enterprises, which is exactly what Carla was saying. Using the resources or the approach rather that, how you hire people and who you hire and where you're looking and including educational programs into your business is very important. I mean, we have a raw food business, so we've gone through the whole spectrum of problems. You know, let's say, for example, we went to the MSU Product Center. They're immensely helpful. There's still a lot of ambiguity around the definition of what is raw food. I mean, we were told to get 5 different licenses that absolutely did not apply to our business. And, you know, we spent a year and a half turning in applications that weren't what we needed to do. And these were, you know, local professionals that were telling us this is what you should do. So I think there, you know, with any successful business, there is a lot of trial and error. But I think businesses like ours and, you know, bigger or smaller, that they need to share more what they've learned. I mean, that's helped us out. You know, Garden Fresh is a great example. They've been an excellent mentor to us. They've been around for a while. They're a family company and fresh products, and you know, just sharing that is a lot more valuable than having some venture capitalists come drop a bag of cash on your front door. So,
Right. Carla, what do we need to do? How do we promote things more? Let people know what's out there.
I think that one of the things we could do is focus on the neighborhoods, do a call out for the entrepreneurs that are in their silos, a word I love, trying to make their businesses bankable. I would love to see, I mean, this is the biggest business group in the state, and I'd love to see all of the stable businesses here mentor a small business or an entrepreneur. And one of the reasons that I say this is that even if you're in a totally different business, there are some things that cause entrepreneurs not to become bankable. And one of them is lack of a strategic plan. Another one is a lack of processes that make them attractive to a bank. So that's my new word, bankable. If we could just have established businesses help entrepreneurs get to a certain point, they would come out of the woodwork around Detroit. And some of the older entrepreneurs too. There are a lot of entrepreneurs over 50 who are on their second careers and really vibrant.
Great. I think the average age at Techtown, is Leslie Smith in here? The average age at Techtown is in the late 47.
All right.
The average entrepreneur
All
at
right.
Techtown is 47. So if you think this is about young in their 20s only entrepreneurs, it's not. This is about across the spectrum. Your youngest is 19, your oldest is 80, high 70s.
Right.
There was a guy in his 80s, he's not with us anymore. So, Paul, what was your biggest surprise in getting your business started?
Biggest surprise, everything's a surprise when you're starting a company from nothing. You know, I would say that the biggest surprise was the support that we got from what I had viewed as just you know, really large companies that were, you know, golden opportunities for Detroit labs. You know, we're a services business, and I thought that it was going to take years for us to work with companies like DT Energy, General Motors, Stryker Medical, Domino's Pizza. These were our first clients. And a lot of the reason why we just got in the room, you know, we had to win the business on our merit, and we have incredible talent. We deliver like crazy, so the results speak for themselves. But to just get in the room, I thought was going to take us years and years and years. And because of the industry that we're in, being, you know, relatively new, you're a veteran if you've been doing it for a couple of years. That's part of it, but also the support that we've gotten. So, you know, one thing that we should all continue to do is to support each other. And, you know, as I grow, I'm looking at this. Has anybody acknowledged how cool this thing is? This storyboard thing. That is just fantastic. And I'd like to hire you, to be honest with you. So I'll do my part. If you're available for a gig, I have a few. Literally, I'm being serious.
Not until this conference is over, however.
I mean, that's just incredible right there. So that definitely what I would say is our biggest sort of impactful surprise.
Katelyns, what about you? Big surprise as you were opening things up?
Every week there's something surprising. I think how much we've learned, my sisters and I, and the experts that we've become in our fields. I mean, I personally studied special education, and I became interested in raw foods and veganism when I was teaching children with autism and developmental disabilities. So, you know, I recently was doing some hiring, and you know, one of the young girls was very nervous that she wasn't qualified, and I was like, no one's qualified for this job. No one knows how to make juice until you start making juice. So I think, you know, the confidence that we've built around, you know, all of these opportunities that perhaps we've never planned for, you know, it's always engaging and surprising, but I think it is what drives our business and keeps us going. So.
Jacques, any surprises for you?
Surprised that Rick Rogers and his folks let us put a watch factory in a school. A big surprise. You know, I don't know that we are surprised per se, David. You know, I think that we're excited, you know, by what we see and by the talent that we found and the people that we're interacting with. You know, I think that's what we're, you know, surprises. You know, there's surprises around every turn, you know, as these guys have said. Yeah, you know, I don't know that we're surprised. I think we're excited.
Great. Carla?
The biggest surprise for me is how anxious people are to find good jobs, good paying jobs. Even though you hear it, the actual hiring people who are appreciative and happy and see your provision of a job as their pathway to the middle class. Going through that experience has been surprising and really rewarding. We've experienced 65% growth over the last 3 years, and the talent pool in Detroit has been my biggest and most positive surprise.
So I want to turn the conversation just a little bit and talk about the most underserved populations in the region, the most impoverished populations in the region. We've tried many things as a society to reconnect people to an economy. We're seeing a rise in entrepreneurial activity in neighborhoods focused on populations that would have been underserved by systems. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing Prosper Us, that's stationed in Southwest Detroit and working in 2 other neighborhoods. We're seeing SWAT City out of Tech Town, Retail Boot Camp. We're starting to see these types of neighborhood-based entrepreneurial activities. As entrepreneurs yourself, you think this is a pathway that we can use to help connect the most underserved into the economy in a meaningful way?
I do. I mean, I think what it starts with is all of this entrepreneurial activity, business activity, and frankly, funding to do a lot of things. So, you know, you need funding. You need funding. You need participation and excitement, and you know a lot of that comes from this. I think. You know, there's a lot of, there are some good examples, some that have already been talked about. I know Bill Pulte and his Blight Authority, you know, they've got all these great plans for you know, making you know, places safer. You know, they did that 10 blocks in 10 days demonstration project. So that's one example of activity that's been generally positive. But for entrepreneurial activity, I think really, you know, there are a lot of things that are in place, and there are more that are going to come out of this because, you know, I know I'm involved with a technology education company startup called Grand Circus, and I was talking yesterday with David Carroll, the VP of Miscellaneous Stuff at Quicken Loans, about carving off a 501c kind of section, sort of spinoff of that to provide, you know, technical education. But I think we really do have to get better at telling the story. I didn't know about all the tools. When I started Detroit Life 2 years ago, I didn't know about all the tools that were available. I focused my energy on the business and starting the business, and I certainly didn't know about a lot of things that are available. So if I didn't know about it, and I'm in the community, the underserved population certainly will struggle to even know what already exists or what will exist soon for them to take advantage of.
I think, David, for us entrepreneurs, if you want to call us that, to really get into helping and giving back to the city, there's a weird tension almost in Detroit, I think. And I don't know if it's because of the dysfunctional aspect of the government in the past. I don't know, I haven't put my thumb on what it is yet, but there's some weird something in Detroit that puts these barriers in place that you feel like you can't go and help, or you can't interact on certain levels. And I think those barriers are things that need to be broken down. And I think that, if there was something to do in Detroit, there would be some sort of advisory board for these impoverished areas to tap into. And there would be some potentially daring people that would step into these impoverished areas and talk to the folks there and let them know that we're approachable. We're all humans here, and we all put our pants on the same way every single morning. Come and bring problems to us, and let us try to work as a group and collaborate and figure out how to solve problems. I think that, look at this panel, everyone sitting here has solved a lot of problems, energy problems, health problems, technology problems. And so break down these barriers, approach.
Carla, you're dying to get in here.
Yeah, Carla. No.
I just wanted to say that Detroit has more. How many people are from the nonprofit community here? We have dozens and dozens and hundreds of nonprofits that are working just to break down those barriers and who have experience and a level of comfort with most of those communities right now and working through existing nonprofits. The one thing we don't need is another nonprofit, because there's so many out here already doing wonderful, wonderful things. One of the biggest surprises when I came to Detroit was how many people are just rolling up their sleeves working in these communities, and how much worse off the communities would be if the nonprofits weren't there. So that would be absolutely wonderful for us and other companies to work with New Detroit, Detroit Parent Network, people who are already on the ground in the communities to bring about an increase in entrepreneurship.
So the Chamber's trying to build an agenda for the next year from the conference. Last question, quickly. You have one thing you can advise Sandy Baru and the Chamber team to put on their to-do list to make entrepreneurship more powerful in Michigan and in Southeast Michigan. What do you do? One thing. Caitlin, why don't we start with you? Let's let Paul take, he seemed to be in concentration mode there on this issue.
Well, I'm going to opt to make this a two-part one thing. I think that, and I know that there's already a little bit of this started, but there needs to be a food incubator. There needs to be incubator kitchens. Like, I think that what we need is more tangible, because the tech town, the creative corridor, there needs to be more direct focus around food entrepreneurship. And not directly included in that, but I also think there needs to be more emphasis on women owning businesses. And not just filling a quota, but actually encouraging it and practicing it and hiring and, general speech. Don't make phone calls and ask who owns the business and where he's at.
Great.
Because he's not there.
Paul?
So.
Do a panel on spectacular startup failures. So one of the differences between the Midwest in general and the coast is that failure is celebrated on the coast. So you start a business 14 times and go ahead, applaud. That's good. Yeah. You could try to start a business 14 times, fail 14 times, and your 15th one is the one that is super successful, and everybody does great things. Those 14, they are a badge of honor. They really are a badge of honor. And I get the sense that is not the same here at all. Maybe because of our industrial roots.
Celebrate failure.
Yep, got it.
Right. Jacques.
Celebrate success.
Tell the story.
Tell the story. Yeah, tell the story. I mean, tell the good.
Right. Carla.
Facilitate a matching program, a connecting program with businesses, established businesses, and small businesses.
Great. So I want to go back to something Sandy said when he started. I think this is not a panel about entrepreneurship as much as it is a panel about changing culture. It's moving us to what was a culture of innovation and self-reliability that we had as the economy grew in this great state. Let me just make one final comment on that. I looked up the word entrepreneur when I started the New Economy Initiative work 4 years ago, and I found out the origin of the word comes from an 18th century Irish entrepreneur who was an economist. And he coined the word in its purest definition to mean someone who takes full responsibility for the success or failure of a venture or an ideal. Meaning, Martin Luther King Jr. is no less an entrepreneur than Bill Gates.
Amen.
Meaning Eleanor Justitis and Father Cunningham were no less an entrepreneur than Dan Gilbert. We have to think about this from a culture change perspective. And don't we need more entrepreneurial teachers, more entrepreneurial politicians, more entrepreneurial foundation people, and we need more entrepreneurs like Paul and Caitlin and Jacques and Carla. Help me thank this panel.
Thank you.